Okay, so the next video that we're going to be doing is the Purl. We're going to be putting on the Purl just on the edge of the leather. So we're going to take it out of its pack and we're going to give it a little bit of a stretch. So I generally take hold of the very end of it, just give it a bit of a stretch like that. Okay, not much, just a tiny little bit. Right, so I'm just going to tweak this end just a little bit to make it slightly more round. Okay, not a lot, but just a tiny bit. And then we're going to start sewing on now. I'm going to just lay that just there like that, but I'm not actually going to stitch here. I'm going to stitch just here because it helps to hold that in place far more firmly. Okay, so I'm going to just come up here like that, and then I'm going to put that first stitch in and just check that it's in the right place. And that's a little bit too long there, can you see? It's just too long, so I'll just twist that and make sure I twist it in the right direction. There, like that. Okay, because you can just twist it to make sure it goes perfectly where you want it to go. It's easier when it's on a straight. When you've already curved it, it's not quite as easy. So we're just then going to go to the end, do those first couple of stitches in the very end of it. Okay, so we've got one there and we've got one right on this very end just here. I'm going to bring that in just there like that. Okay, and that perfectly goes into the hole that I've already made. Now I'm just holding my fingernail there just to make sure it guides into that gap there, because I want it to, the thread to go right over that very last gap. Okay, and then we need to come round. So I'm just going to bring that around, hold it in that curved shape, and then carry on now. That's just lifted up, so you might want to just do a second stitch, a second stay stitch just in that to make sure that it's going to hold perfectly in place where you want it to stay. Okay, like that. Okay, so that should hold that first and second stitch perfectly in place. Now you can always like bend it into place a little bit as well if you wanted to. Okay, so now we're going to come around here and we're going to continue stitching around our leather. So we're coming over the leather, over the Purl on the very outside of the leather and into the leather. Okay, so we don't need to go into every single hole in our leather, and we do need to be aware that potentially you want to be going at a very slight angle. Okay, like that. Okay, so we're just going to come, because our Purl is at an angle, our Purl forms a slight angle like that, then you know my stitch is here coming up, but I'm actually going to stitch down just there, so you can see that that's at a slight angle. I'm just going to go in that hole in the leather that's already made. Okay, and you're just going to carry on now around the edge of the leather and stitch that all down. Okay, so we just need to finish this off around the corner. Okay, and if we just bring that around like that, then we can see that we need to chop it off about there. But I tend to chop it off about one too long initially, and the reason I do that is so that if it is too short, you can't add an extra bead on, but if it's too long, then you can take one off. So I'm just going to put that there, and I'm just going to make sure that I use this part of my scissors. So I use this part of my scissors, not this part, because if you use this part of your scissors, then it damages them a lot more quickly. It blunts that end a lot more quickly. This is a really hard wire, so you're far better off using this part of your scissors. Okay, so we'll just carry on stitching now. And I've just curved that a little bit already. It's just holding into place there. So we're just going to come up, and I'm going to stitch every stitch now to make sure that that holds perfectly in place. Okay, and unlike at the beginning where I stitched down here and then I stitched back, we will just be stitching all the way along. The only reason why we do that at the beginning is so that your wire doesn't flip and flop all over the place, which you can clearly see it is doing here now. I'm just going to bend that a little bit more and just push that up slightly like that, and then that should hold nicely into place. Okay, so you can bend it perfectly into place if you want, so this needs to obviously bend around a little bit more there, but sometimes it just flicks back anyway because it is quiet, and if you bend it too far, you know, you can potentially bend it back, but if you've actually put a kink in it, then it's unlikely that you're going to be able to get that back to where it was previously. So you're better off not bending quite as far as it needs to go potentially. Okay, so I'm just going to put that one in there, bring that over to there. Now I can see that that is definitely one too long, so I'm going to take my scissors again and I'm just going to lift that up, and I'm going to snip that again. I'm snipping it down the blade here, not here. Okay, and then that just falls really nicely into place just up here. Okay, so put that little stitch in there, and I'm just going to do another stitch over that just to double up and make sure that that definitely stays in place and doesn't go anywhere. Okay, there we go. So that's our nice little area. If you want to just push that out like that to make sure it forms nicely around that area, then you can do. And there we go. There's our purl around our leather.